city on each side of the planet. 16 says that he can't really figure out where on the planet the Dragon Ball is. There's a lot of interference. It is as if the entire planet is made of metal, like a giant Faraday cage. My guess is that it is not related to Son Goku. You may be on your own in your suit. Do you think we should split into 2 groups? Pan asks.
With communications down, that seems like a risky prospect.
Yeah, but look at us. We can handle anything. There's been nothing really especially challenging so far.
So, do the green spots look different at all when we did our, wrap around the planet?
From as far up as you are, they look pretty similar, but they're not 1-to-1. I would like to put forth a wager. If I get the Dragon Ball before my sister, well, then I win.
If you minimize collateral damage. Because I'm imagining a rampaging boxer here.
I will take it under consideration, Catman. Well, in that case, I can go with my idiot nephew if you want to take my idiot niece, says Bra. What about us, says Bad Cat Ass. Training you still have to do. This, your mission is not, Bad Cat Ass. Yes, guard the ship we will.
Okay.
I guess in the meantime, I'll just be making lunches for everybody. I put a little lollipop in boxers just in case somebody needs to pop it in them, quiet them down.
You put a Snickers in his bento box.
You know you're not you when you're hungry.
You drop the other team off on one half, and then the ship makes its way over to the other side of the planet. The green looks like plant life, but 16 had said that this was all metal. Yes, it's all green, and it looks like plant life, and it seems to be acting like plant life, but it is indeed made of metal. You see the fruit at the base of the tree that fell maybe a couple weeks ago and is starting to go, and it disintegrates, turns into powder that gets blown away in the wind.
Hey, Tiger Man, do you sense anything?
The energy that you sense is electric in nature. All the fruit on these trees is carrying an electric charge.
Electric fruit? It is a fruit charge.
So you guys make your way over to what looks to be a city. As I said, there's buildings, there's roads, but there doesn't seem to be anybody out.
I'm looking in windows. Okay, this is kind of creepy. We've got a metal forest, metal city.
From what you can read with your sensors, because I'm sure you have some sort of HUD.
Oh yeah, I'm imagining I have maybe I have a super basic mode where maybe I have a visor and I have a thing on my arm.
So you're reading a static throughout the city. It might just be because that's just how the entirety of this planet is interacting with its electromagnetic field. It's science that is beyond Goose. The inside of the buildings are varied, what look like office buildings, grocery stores that have bins full of these metal fruits, metal vegetables.
If I was a Dragon Ball in an abandoned city, where would I be?
Is there dust or anything anywhere?
The same sort of dust that you saw the fruit earlier, the one that was quote-unquote rotting, dissolve into and blow away in the wind.
Ominous.
You analyze the dust, and it seems to be sort of reflective, it's reflecting the light of the nearby sun. You see that it is starting to get a little bit more charged. If you weren't at 100%, you get the charging indicator when you put the dust on your thing.
So I'm going to take some of it off. I'm going to take it off, but I'm so this thing can charge my armor. I want to hold on to some of this stuff. I'll just put it in my pocket.
You could put a whole grocery store bin of this fruit into a capsule.
That is what I'm doing.
It's Dragon Ball. Storage means nothing. You sense the key of your allies on the other side of the planet. You sense small motes of energy, but they're not organic. They feel like androids.
We may not be alone here.
All right, I'd like to activate my railroad to plot ability. A preliminary thermal scan. There's a hot, warmer energy signature running directly below us, but there are some localized spots of increased heat, so let's go check out one of those.
You see what looks to be kind of like an assembly line putting together different parts.
The Singularity Engine.
There's 2 or 3 conveyor belts that are assembling different pieces that look to be components for some kind of machine. You're not exactly sure what.
And if we follow the conveyors, there's no doors to the next room.
So Manda goes over and just straight up picks up one of the parts. It looks to be some kind of rudimentary arm. There's another one that seems to be making some kind of rudimentary leg, and another making feet.
And there's no other access ways into the next rooms.
No, just seems to be whatever hole these conveyors are going out of and into.
Can I walk over to like one of the like where it meets the wall and just kind of stretch my head through like around the corner to see what's in there?
You ever see like in cartoons when a cartoon character gets stuck in the gears of machinery and they get stretched all throughout it? So your head gets like your head tail brushes up against a gear and gets sucked up. And so you go through like a whole bunch of winding gears. Your head pops out at like another area, seems to be putting these parts together into little spherical robots. Based on that roll, he can't pull himself out. You know how if you ever watch Winnie the Pooh when he gets stuck in Rabbit's house? He's got like all four of his limbs pressed against the wall. He's trying to yank his head out. Did you just hear the sound of like rubber stretching?
Oh no, I'm gonna run and try and pull.
Okay. With everybody helping, he's able to pull his head out with a loud...
On the other side of that wall, there's a bunch of gears. Don't go in there.
It's a question. How hard is it to break a Dragon Ball?
Still, you feel Boxer's energy rising on the other side of the planet. He's probably getting up to some bullshit.
I'm just going to look at everyone, and then I'm going to look at the wall, and I'm going to fly through the wall.
Little robots similar to what Abara saw are like materializing out of the street. The street is like liquefying and they're forming out of the liquid. They all look at you and then they look away and they start moving around like they're normal citizens going about their business. You know, you know that grocery store you passed with all the metallic fruit? You see a bunch of little robots going there, some set up like behind a cash box that act like cashiers and are checking people out as they're shopping for metal fruit and metal vegetables.
Is there one fruit stand that is being like, swear I had a full cart of...
Yeah, he's like scratching his little robot head and looking around.
And then in binary, he screams, "My cabbages!"
Wonder where the power source is.
No, I don't think we need to worry about that, because if we can just ask them where the Dragon Ball is and take the Dragon Ball, then mission accomplished, and you win.
Excuse me.
A little robot turns up and looks at you and speaks.
Yes, hello.
Did I hear you mention a Dragon Ball?
Oh, yes. Do you know where we might find one?
Nope.
Okay.
I know my boss is looking for them.
Your boss, and where is your boss by chance?
Oh, he's at...
And he starts listing off a whole bunch of serial numbers.
Okay, and your name was?
He rattles off a long serial number.
Oh, that's great. I'm 16. Nice to meet you, and thank you.
As you're heading east, you see like now they're starting to be a little more varied. There's like a robot pushing a stroller that has a smaller identical robot inside it.
Aw.
You eventually see a robot that does look a little different. He's still pretty small. He's got like a green bit on his head. It doesn't look to be. He's got little tiny legs, and his arms are crossed as he's watching robots walk back and forth.
Wow, what a pompous little guy.
Hey! Who are you calling little?
Oh,
I fucking hate you.
it's Robot Eric. Hello, sir. I guess I'm the negotiator on this planet.
Yeah, what's your serial number?
16. Anyway, so I understand you're looking for Dragon Balls?
You know where we can find a Dragon Ball. Amanda, what are you doing with your tail right now?
No, it's still wrapped around.
Hey, Syl,
Yeah.
you don't notice this about to happen. A tiny little hand reaches up and grabs your tail. It's just what I thought. You're a Saiyan.
Man, they can't do anything.
What do you want with her?
Just, revenge for the whole genocide of our race.
What?
Oh no.
And every robot in the street turns to look at the group.
You ready? I just like swing my appendage over. I
grab the candy.
And you see multiple shapes start to rise out of the ground next to him.
Yeah, it's them.
It's a Sigma Force.
Yeah.
The big red one presses a button on their wrist, and one of the buildings nearby pops open like a huge television screen that shows another figure rising out of the planet and ambushing the other group, the three Saiyans.
Hero Rildo,
Yeah.
And before they can react, the beams connect, and they all freeze like statues and sink into the planet's crust.
Fighting time?
Abara spits out the Werther's that is Manda, transforming her back to her normal state. Bizu, the huge gray and blue machine mutant, rose up between the crew and transformed his body into countless spikes, which shot out in every direction, pinning the crew to the buildings encasing the street. Abara, being essentially made of rubber, slipped out of his needle bonds with little issue. Pipsley, for his part, tried to shoot Bizu with a rocket fist, but Commander Nezi managed to intercept and crush the gauntlet, leaving Pipsley's forearm bare. Unfortunately for the machines, Manda was pinned with her arms flung back in the perfect position to begin charging up her grandfather's signature beam.
Wait a minute, what is she doing? What is she doing? I don't know, boss. I think she's charging an attack or something. How is she charging an attack? She's restrained. I don't know, boss. I don't know nothing about those attacks.
Rosette, the one that is not red, not huge, and not Eric, floats up to our trapped heroes, rubbing his chin.
Yeah, I think I can work with this.
He says, reaching into his chest compartment and pulling out clusters of bombs.
Oh no!
Rosette activates the bombs, exploding them right in the whole crew's faces, save for Abara, sending them reeling. This explosion, though, thanks to the technology of the Sigma Force, could be shaped around his allies, allowing the commander to act. She charged at Abara with a scream, slipping between his defense and slamming a metal fist directly into his rubbery belly. While embedded in Abara's gut, Nezi's fist morphed into a gun, blasting the Majin at point blank. Barge, thinking quickly, expands a pale orange energy barrier from his body, pushing aside the needles and freeing himself. Nato, a robot Eric, glanced at the freed heroes and sends energy to Rosette and Nezi to speed up their processors. Bizu attempts to trap Farge and Abara once again, but Farge barely dodges out of the way, and Abara slithers out much like before. In an attempt to free Pipsley, Abara blasts the needles trapping him, singeing the boy, but freeing him from his prison.
Sorry, my vision's going.
Manda slowly begins bringing her hands together. Rosette, now terrified, begins piling as many bombs near the girl as his hands can pull. Manda takes the attack to her face with a wicked grin. Nezi realizes this is probably a bad thing and immediately attempts to dogpile Manda and take her out before she can fire. A poor decision, for now Manda doesn't have to aim. Pipsley overclocks his armor, focusing more power to his legs to save his exposed left arm. He swings about Goku's power pole toward Nezi, extending it toward her. Nezi easily grabs the pole, scoffing, but she'd fallen for his trap. Pipsley retracts the power pole, yanking himself toward the red machine. With a roar, Pipsley roundhouse kicks Nezi in the midsection, his heel smashing her arm at the elbow. He jabs the power pole into the ground, bending it back to spring himself inward and slam a right uppercut into Nezi's chin, cracking her chassis. Farge picks up where Pipsley left off, wiggling his butt to calibrate maximal. He sprints forward and bats at Nezi 3 times in quick succession, but the machine mutant is able to knock his swipes aside. Farge winds up another punch, but his arm extends like a Namekian's without warning, flopping limply on the ground. Farge retracts his arm, but it remains wobbly as though boneless. He whirls the floppy arm toward Nezi, who didn't expect it to work like elastic, and drag his claws through her chassis, knocking her to the ground. Farge smashes Nezi where Pipsley had damaged her, but is grabbed by the robot before the blow connects. Nato fires a beam at his commander, repairing some of the damage and overcharging Nezi's processors. Bizu comes at his commander's rescue as well, pinning the crew once more. Pipsley brings about his remaining arm and fires a rocket fist, critically striking Nato and stunning him temporarily. Abara slips his fist past all the spikes, sending a punch at Nezi. As it connects, he forces his goo into the cracks in the machine's chassis, then expands, bubblegum pouring out of every orifice. Manda's hands finally come together and release all the pent-up energy, a powerful final flash. wiping Bizu from existence. Nezzy melts into the ground and reforms on a nearby building, taking aim at Farge and releasing a massive wave of power. The Tiger Man attempts to fling himself out of the way, but his knee locks up. Thankfully, his barrier from earlier was still active, taking all of the damage. Rosette suggests the Sigma Force regroup and grabs Nato, melting into the ground. With a roar of effort, Farge releases a beam of violet energy with a Gallic gun that slams into Nezzy, heavily damaging her. Pipsley charges in once again, flaring his key and uppercutting her into the sky.
Hey, you red asshole! Make fast!
He zooms up past her and slams his heel back down into her back and sends the machine careening toward Abara. Abara simply reaches his arm straight out, providing the surface by which Nezzy's back breaks. He slowly drops his arm and spins his body around to bring an elbow into her chest, but it quickly dissolves into liquid metal. Manda, trying to catch her before it touches the ground, kicks 2 balls of energy at her. Nezzy reforms in time to bat aside the first, but the second catches her in the chin, knocking her to the ground.
You really think you've won, don't you?
We're not fighting to win.
If I wanted to win, I could just blow up the planet.
We're fighting to save a planet.
Fighting to save a planet. That's rich. The Saiyans don't fight to save planets.
Do I look like a Saiyan to you?
I don't know if you've heard, but we
You
don't even
feel
have
like
a planet
one.
anymore.
And whose fault is that? None of you know about Tuffles.
Vegeta wouldn't say anything, and he's the only one who would know.
If you thought that bastard King Vegeta showed mercy to any of our race, then you're sadly mistaken.
I don't even know who you are.
We are the scions of the Tuffles. And they melt into metal and get absorbed by the planet. And the Tuffles know all of your weaknesses.
An artificial moon shoots into the sky, blasting the area with Blutz waves. Farge senses something is wrong and averts his eyes in time, but Manda is not so experienced with this transformation.
Trunks and Vegeta, get in the chamber and fight me.
You see, the twins had never seen a full moon. Trunks hid the Ozaru form from them, and they never received proper training to control it like their grandfather did.
Oh, no, we're away from the ship, god damn it.
The Lavender Ape swatted at Farge, who threw himself backwards and jumped between her fingers. Manda's jaws opened and a beam of violent energy shot out of her mouth. Farge quickly throws up his barrier and is blasted 3 miles west of the battle, barely scraping by. Manda rears her head back and roars, stomping on the robots surrounding her. Thinking on his feet, Pipsley covers his exposed arm in the metallic dust he collected earlier in an attempt to seal and repressurize his suit. He calls for the rest of the team to distract Manda while he blasts into the sky to get enough of a signal to 16 and summon the Big Hugs protocol. Pipsley is barely able to send a message to the ship, which speeds off toward his signal. Abara splits himself into smaller copies to keep Manda's attention, but almost immediately her eyes land on the frozen frame of Boxer's surprised face on the side of a skyscraper. Manda shrieks and fires another massive beam of energy that pierces the building and zooms off into space, scraping the shield of the ship as it speeds towards Pipsley. Farge is similarly speeding back to the fight, while Abara sends a copy up to Manda's face. His clone leaps into her throat, using Manda's uvula as a punching bag. The monkey reels, but with a single gulp, that copy is gone. The remaining copies link arms and stretch, wrapping around Manda's legs and tripping the massive Saiyan. In response, the Ozaru rolls over and scrapes her hands along the ground, trying to gather all the clones into one place. Each copy takes a deep breath in unison and stop Manda's hands in place, gripping onto her fingers. The clones flip her over their shoulders and slam her into the ground. Among the stars, the pieces of the Big Hugs protocol are flung from the ship towards Pipsley. The dust on his exposed arm begins to flake off, and it begins to chill to the bone. Alarms go off in his helmet as the water in his skin begins to freeze solid. The first piece of upgraded armor locks in place over his arm, and the rest begins to attach. The buildings in the fighting area light up. The screens display what became of the other 3 Saiyan kids, who are strapped to lab tables and being electrocuted. Boxer shrieks in pain as the lightning skates across his skin, and Pan and Bra follow suit. Farge screams out to release them, his rage boiling over. His muscles begin to bloat, his arm bulging and the skin blowing out, revealing synthetic muscle and blood vessels, some spewing a dark purple liquid. He fell to his knees, his healing factor struggling to keep up with his powers going out of control. His one visible eye flares a bright violet. Sight away from Abara, sensing the power growing in the Tiger Man. She reaches out and scoops him up in her hands, beginning to crush him. Abara's copies fly up to her fists, prying at her fingers to keep them from squashing their friend. The 2 opposing forces are locked in a stalemate as Pipsley's big hug Saiya Buster descends from the sky. Farge's vision goes black for a moment. Transforming into a Super Saiyan, Gohan responds to Farge's question. It feels overwhelming at first. If you lack the focus and determination, it can overtake you. I remember both seeing my dad transform on Namek and feeling it myself, fighting Cell. Gohan looks away from his student for a moment. It's not something I'm proud of. Feeling that level of rage, it hurts you irreparably. But you can give yourself an objective, and if you do, something to focus on, you can channel that anger and make it serve you. Golden light spews out from between Lana's fingers. Farge gently moves her hands aside, his fur standing on end and blazing a bright gold. His eyes shone violet like his perfect brother, and electricity danced across his fiery aura. Locks onto the nearest energy signature of the captured Saiyans, and his surroundings shift. Farge instinctively used instant transmission, appearing in front of Boxer. With the barest effort, he rips off Boxer's bindings. Pipsley's Saiya Buster whirs to life, and its pilot cracks his knuckles.
Manda, it's time to go to sleep.
Pipsley blasts down towards Manda's back, grabbing onto her tail and swinging her around, slamming her back and forth between buildings. Farge, feeling the energy of the other 2 Saiyans, locks onto Pan and teleports to his surrogate sister, freeing her. Abara watches the ape fly over his head, and Pipsley shouts at him to help Farge with the others. Abara locks onto Farge's energy and blasts into the sky toward him. As Farge teleports again to Bra, Abara adjusts mid-flight and pushes himself as quickly as he can fly. Manda loses a mouth beam at Pipsley, who brings up an energy shield just barely too late to block the blast. Thankfully, his armor was much thicker than normal and managed to soak some of the damage. An alarm alerts him to his servos overheating, and he drops the overclock process. With a clank, his right arm morphs from a fist into a massive hammer. He speeds towards Manda, throwing his arm around into a spinning slam right to her cheek. The Ozaru catches the hammer in her hand, and Pipsley morphs it back into a fist. With another loud clank, the other arm transforms into the hammer, allowing him a second chance. It whirs and rapidly jackhammers punch after punch into Manda's chin. The gorilla goes flying into a distant skyscraper, knocking it down. Farge has by now freed Bra and been found by Abara.
Please keep them safe in the way that you know how.
Abara understands and transforms the children into candy, gobbling them up and absorbing them to hide their energy. From within himself, he sends healing energy into them to patch them up, while his copies fuse back into the original. The Ozaru does what it does best, firing yet another blast towards Pipsley. The boy brings up his arms to take the damage and brings his leg around to kick the monkey's head, trying to grab him. A cable shoots out of Pipsley's wrist, wrapping around the Ozaru's legs and bringing her to the ground. Now that the away team is safe, Farge teleports back to the fight, a picture of tranquil fury. He wraps his arms around Manda's tail and yanks it from her back. The giant gorilla form of Manda begins to shrink, her clothing, a brief special, shrinking with her, and she collapses on the ground. Farge asks Pipsley for targeting data as his suit powers down from lack of energy, and without turning his head, Farge blasts the artificial moon over the sky. As the adrenaline wears off, Farge's transformation fades, and he too collapses on the ground like Amanda and Pipsley, whose Buster armor just falls off his normal suit. As Ibarra flies back to the rest of the team, the ground folds around the rest of the crew and swallows them up. When Ibarra finally returns, he returns to an empty wasteland of steel and silver. Next time on GT. With Farge, Pipsley, Amanda captured, it's down to Ibarra and the other Saiyans to break into the factory and rescue the rest of the crew. Dr. Mew bears down on our heroes, collecting data and all the while working on his greatest experiment, the floating machine mutant embryo faintly glowing in the tube behind him. Will the crew manage to escape M2 with their lives, let alone the Dragon Ball? Find out next time on GT.